Update presented by 𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐚𝐫𝐲. I'm Nick Hawks. On today's episode, we have Alec Wilson, the COO at Spexi, the builders of 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐬𝐴𝐿𝐼. This episode is sponsored by 𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐿ABS. Labs. If you're pushing the limits of what's possible on chain, you should build your own rollup with 𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐿ABS. We'll have a little bit more on them later in the show. And before we get started, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. This alerts you to when the next episode drops and helps us keep bringing great guests like Alec to you. Alec, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Love to be here.
I'm psyched to have you on. Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on with Spexi. We got the third alpha test opens today. You guys did the first one in Surrey, or second one in Surrey, and you got some more coming down the pipe. Yeah, what's going on, man? Talk me through it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we've been busy. We've been rolling this thing out in a controlled manner. When you fly drones in the airspace, it's just there's a lot going on, and no one's really done this at scale before, especially with the kind of drones that we're using, which are micro drones, sub 250s, and there's nuance in how those are controlled and with software. So a lot of new things that we're building here. So rolling this out in a controlled way, with all of the things that we know are important need to come first, like safety and people's enjoyment of the product. So today we just launched our third alpha city, which is Kelowna, BC, and pilots are in the city flying as we speak. Using the 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐬𝐚𝐫𝐲 mobile app, and they are capturing for rewards. So we're testing a few things in this city. One being different levels of rewards depending on where the 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐚𝐫𝐲s are, and that's because we actually have customers that have pre-purchased imagery in parts of the city, and so we're making those areas more valuable so that we can get pilots to get them first because the customers want them first, and see how the behavior plays out when you change values of 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐚𝐫𝐲s. We haven't tested that yet. The last city we did was Surrey, which was much bigger, one of the fastest growing cities in Canada. So 2,200 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐚𝐫𝐲s, almost 50,000 acres of area was imaged. That's almost 40,000 football fields, to put it in perspective. And the pilots just absolutely smashed it. They did it in 2 weeks. We were super impressed with their willingness to work through some of the technical issues that are still present in the product as we're in alpha, but it was incredible. We definitely have sort of struck a chord with the drone pilots that have participated so far. So it's been really exciting.
Yeah. Now it seems like there's a pretty high bar to participate there. As I saw, 1,100 pilots applied, 36 were chosen, and then something like 17 captured most of it. Like it's a winnowing down process. Can you walk me through what you guys were thinking there, and if you think that'll happen every time?
Yeah, I mean, we're learning a lot, like, how do you acquire the pilots? How do you get them interested? And so we got those 1,100 interested all with online campaigns. So it was like us creating videos about what's going on and putting those on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and getting them in front of as many people as we could. We also had like a lot of interest from Facebook drone pilot groups. If you're a drone pilot, you've heard of these groups. They're pretty much in like every city, and keen drone pilots get together to talk about regulations and things they do and they can't do, and where's a good place to fly. And so we had a lot of people join from those groups because they sort of just got into the groups and people started talking about it. So we waitlisted 1,100 folks, and this was also just in the Western BC, Southwest BC, Lower Mainland area. So just around the city of Vancouver. That's that's only where we advertised into, and we got 1,100 people like within a couple of weeks. So very strong response, and like we weren't spending a crazy amount of money on the ads. It was a really reasonable cost to acquire those leads. So that's a really good sign on the supply side. We then basically said, hey guys, this is the plan. We want some early adopters to test this first alpha rollout. It's a paid project. And so from there we had hundreds, like I can't remember what it was exactly, a few hundred at least, fill out a further application form to participate in the alpha. And the others were like, yeah, I'm actually not ready. I'd love to see how this goes and participate when it's a little bit bigger and more at scale. And then from there, we handpicked pilots based on their experience level, the kind of hardware they had, where they were, if they had licenses or not. We had a mix of both because in Canada, flying a sub 250 drone, you're not required to have a pilot's license. Whereas it's obviously recommended and we encourage this, but we're not going to be imposing requirements above and beyond the laws of the land in the countries that we're in. So in Canada, it's not required to have a drone pilot license. And so we wanted a few that didn't to see how they performed. those pilots performed extremely well. So it was really interesting to see. But
Okay.
yeah, so it basically, we selected them, brought them in, and then out of the 36 that we hand selected, 17 of them ended up just like going full bore and like
Getting after it.
just
Yeah.
went crazy.
Awesome.
And then another 10, captured between 50 and 100, and some of them captured like 300-400 and did very well.
Yeah. And then it sounds like this is something pretty special. I read it's the highest resolution urban imagery data set ever created at this scale, and it was 3 to 5 times the quality of the next best thing. Is that, like, walk me through? So no one has ever done anything at this size before, or kind of what is this? How does this compare to other efforts?
Yeah, so to our knowledge, like, people have flown cities with fixed wing drones, although
Okay.
it's very difficult to do it because you have to fly beyond visual line of sight typically, because the drones, you have one or two of these really expensive drones and they have to cover big areas.
Yep.
And the regulatory landscape around that makes it quite challenging. So to our knowledge, capturing imagery at 3 centimeters, which is what the resolution is of this imagery, using micro drones in an urban setting, to our knowledge, hasn't been done at that scale, at like almost 50,000 acres of imagery captured. And no one has done it using micro drones. So this is never, like, if you think about that was all done with sub 250s, it's sort of like, it's kind of mind boggling. And no one's done it with a bunch of different pilots, right? Like it's been mostly like small groups of pilots or just like teams that go out and do it. And then the last thing is, it was all our software from beginning to end. So mobile app, that's all our software. The web app where the 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐿𝑠 exist to upload data and the flight records exist to verify that data, all is our software. So the only, to our knowledge, effort where the entire stack has been controlled completely by one set of software.
Pretty rad. Super cool to see. I'm sure the at some point the NSA will come out and be like, actually, we did this, but for a civilian kind of group, that is amazingly cool to see that resolution of data and happening in the way that you guys did it. That's super cool. Let's see. Let's take a quick break. Talk about today's sponsor, 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐿 Labs. One of the cool parts about doing this show is that we get to talk to tons of different projects across the space, including back-end nerdy stuff that helps these DePIN projects work. One of those is today's show sponsor, 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐿 Labs. They're a customizable roll-up provider deploying app-specific chains for several DePIN projects. They allow you to pick your virtual machine, your base layer, and additional customizations to enable new functionality for your DApp. 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐿 is committed to helping projects build on DePIN. Check them out at 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐿.builders and check out the interview that we did with Neil over at 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐿 if you haven't seen it yet. So, Alec, coming back to what you guys are doing, it sounds like you guys are really kind of focused on getting what I think of as like the physical side of this world nailed down. In early October, you guys did TCXPO, the Canadian Smart Mobility Demonstration Day. Saw a cool little interview there, kind of introducing this concept to the world. On the other side of it, I see there's a little bit of a delay with the token launch. You want to tell me kind of what's going on with you guys as you guys are looking at that?
Yeah, so we got into this space, kind of at the, like, we really started getting excited at the height of when things were taking off with Helium. That's when we really learned about like DePIN and token incentivized networks, and
Yep.
and that was, we were just in awe, and we still are with all those projects. We have nothing but respect for what people have built and how people are trying to do this. However, since we've been building for the last year full time on �Сpexi, since we raised money, it's become clear that for us, number one, we need to learn more about the fundamental economics of this kind of two-sided marketplace. And because there's not much precedent from a drone perspective at scale, standardizing inputs and outputs, there's just a lot to learn. And so we want to do that before there's any kind of a token that would perhaps cloud out some of the reason that people like to use products or provide feedback. So that's one reason that we are right now, pilots are earning cash, and they will continue to do so for the near future. The other reason, of course, is the regulatory uncertainty around what is or is not a security. And as much as we, are supportive of the efforts of Coinbase and love, we're super excited to see how that goes. And I have a lot of faith that calmer heads will prevail here, and we'll end up with a reasonable, innovative, friendly situation.
Yeah.
Reality is we're not entirely sure right now. So
good.
But for now, we're looking for some more clarity. We're working with our legal team, and and the folks here in Canada and the US to try to help clarify things more. But as per our documentation, we still plan to have a Spexi token at some point in the future. It's just unclear exactly when that will be.
Yeah, that seems like a really smart kind of stance to take. Is like, hey, this is what we want to do. We think it's really cool, but before we kind of know what's going on, let's just chill out and see what's happening.
Yeah, and
Let's see.
I think the other thing I'll just add is that we are working on a demand-led expansion strategy, so funding acquisition with actual contracts and customers. And
Smart.
so that begets a slower rollout because it's harder to do that. You actually have to get the contracts and the customers, and that requires more effort. But it also enables us to scale with funded data collection in part or in full by customers. And so that buys us sort of more time as we learn more things, and enables us to really set the situation up for crypto economics in the future.
Cool. Super cool. Let's see. So you guys have done Surrey, Kelowna, and one more, right?
Yeah, the other town was 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐚, which is a smaller town in Alberta, and that was like the first test that we did. It was with a couple professional drone pilot teams that we knew because it was the first time this product had been in the hands of anyone external to us. So we wanted it to be as controlled as we could, and it went very well. They captured it like very quickly, and so that was a really good vote of confidence for our dev team and for us to scale up. That one was 300 𝐶𝐸, and then Surrey we went almost 10 times that. So we really opened it up bigger on the next one.
It's awesome. And now, so far, all this stuff has been up in Canada, but the word on the street is maybe there's going to be another country on the books that you guys are going to explore. Do you want to give us any teasers there?
Yeah, so because we're leading with demand, it'll be a slower rollout, as I said, but certainly we're got our eyes on the United States. We want to understand more the fundamental sort of operating principles there. What are some of the other hurdles and obstacles that we're going to face that are a little bit more challenging in the States from a drone perspective? One of them is the drone regulation. It's different than Canada and many other countries in the world, where in Canada, if the drone is under a certain weight, 250 grams, it's actually falls under a different set of regulation where you don't have as much restriction in flight, although you still need to be careful and you still need to respect the rules of the air. You don't actually need to, interact with all these systems. In the States, it's different. If you're flying commercially or recreationally, that changes how you are seen in the eyes of the FAA. And so, of course, this is a commercial operation. So pilots in the US will be required to have a Part 107 drone pilot license, and they'll be required to interact with the Lance airspace system, which if you're a drone pilot in the States, this is not crazy. This is something that you just do. And so we're excited to go test, and some of the early conversations we've had with pilots and groups of pilots and teams and companies is they just can't wait. They're like, come to my city. We'd love to just go do this. And so we're gearing up to figure out where that's going to be. It's possibly Texas, possibly Austin. We're sort of looking at what is going to be the best place to do, but we'll light up a good chunk of a city and we'll get moving. So it's probably in that area. But we also have had some pretty interesting conversations with some of the big data players in the world, like, the Googles and the Metas, and they're seeing what we're doing, and they're definitely watching. And so we're hoping that they can lead us into a spot that they'd like to see a good test case and work that way.
Super, super exciting. Well, I'm sure that the American audience that watches this is going to want to know how to jump on board. But for anyone, where do they come find you? Where's the best place to jump in and participate with you guys?
So Discord, Discord 𝐶𝐸𝐿. You can get the links online. That's where everyone gets updated first. But also, if you join the waitlist on our website, so 𝐶𝐸𝐿.com, and then you can join the waitlist there. That whole list gets updated with everything, our plans. So if you want to, give us feedback on where to go, or you just want to stay in the loop, that is definitely the best place to be.
Right on. Alec, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing time with us and giving us updates on Spexi. Rock on, man.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me, and can't wait to chat again.